I'm reading this morning from the book of Luke in the 24th chapter. There were two men going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about things that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, suddenly Jesus himself came and walked with them. But they did not recognize him. He said, "What are you discussing together as you walk?" They stopped, stood still, their faces sad. Cleopas said to him, "Are you only a visitor to Jerusalem and do not know the things that have happened here in these days?" And Jesus said, "What things?" "Well, about Jesus of Nazareth," said Cleopas. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. We hoped he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. What is more, it is the third day since all this took place. Some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning and did not find his body. They came and told us they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. And some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women said, but they did not see him." Jesus said, "How foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Christ have to suffer these things and to enter into his glory? Beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself." As they neared the spot to which they were going, Jesus acted as if he were going on further. But they said to him, "Stay with us. It is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. He was at the table with them. He took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened and they knew who he was, and he disappeared from their sight. And they turned to each other. "Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" They got up and went to return to Jerusalem immediately, found the 11 and those with them assembled together, and said, "It is true, the Lord has risen. He's appeared to Simon." And the two told them what had happened on the way, how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. The word from the Lord in the house of the Lord. The same day, the first day of the week, the day that the tomb was empty, the day that people went into hiding, was the day these two gentlemen were, it says, headed to Emmaus. Now, the geologists and the historians will tell you that there's no such place, never was such a place as Emmaus. It's just mentioned here in the Bible. But they were walking to somewhere. And Emmaus is not a place, but it's a journey. It's not a place, but it's a trip. It's not just a place, but it's our constant movement, our constant relationship with Christ. They believed in him, evidently, because they were talking about him. And yet, there they were, not recognizing Jesus when he came up. Well, I guess if I had been at that time and had known he had been crucified 3 days earlier, I wouldn't have been looking for him either. How often do we run into somebody and they say, "Oh, I never would have recognized you until you said something"? How often do we lose people? I go back to when I got my cataracts fixed here. And the first Sunday after I got my second cataract fixed, and I came to church here without my glasses, and people walked right by me like I didn't exist, because I didn't look like I was supposed to look. And in their hearts, how did they know how Jesus was supposed to look? He'd been crucified. He was dead. He'd been buried. And yet there he was. But the story isn't about that. The story is about where were they going? How long had they believed in Jesus? How long had they been part of his entourage? How long had they been part of In today's vernacular, how long had they been part of his posse? 3 years? 2 years? 1 year? How long have we walked with Jesus without recognizing him? How long have we been part of what it is that he has preached in this world, what he has brought to this world, how he has made this world different without it really making us different? You know, I preach about my dad a lot because my dad impressed me a lot, and it took a long time to do it, though. He walked with Jesus his whole life. Maybe he was on the trip to Emmaus. He walked with him. But he was 96 when he said, I need to be baptized. I have finally made that decision to make him that important in my life. He was the most honorable man I've ever known. His word was absolute. He never made a promise he didn't keep. So he walked with Jesus. He did the things that Jesus would have him do. He was a good man. But he was 96 when he recognized Jesus as the one who could save him. In my own case, how long? I didn't decide to do this kind of stuff until I was 55 years old. But how long had I walked with him, not recognizing how important he was, how absolutely necessary he was in my life? And I know most of you out there, most of you walked with Jesus a long time. Some of you haven't recognized him even yet. But that's the story of what Jesus can bring to our life. He can make us totally different when we finally learn to see him. So, a trip to Emmaus is a journey. It's not a destination. And even they said, we're stopping here. Why don't you stay with us? And that's when he said, you know who I am, because I will break bread with you. I will bless you right here. Every time we sit down to a meal, we need to remember that he said, as you break bread with one another, do it in remembrance of me. Do it in remembrance of the life I have given you. Because his life didn't end when he was crucified. It has not ended yet. And as long as anyone will worship Jesus Christ, his life will never end. For he is Emmaus. He is the destination. He is the travel that we're headed for. He is the place. No, he can't be a place. He is a destination, but not a place. If it takes you till you're 96 to find him, or 55, or you found him when you were 6, it makes no difference. His love is absolute. His love is permanent. His love is life-changing. And when we dabble at it, when we go to the seashore and we put one toe in the cold ocean water and run back, we have not enjoyed the ocean or the swim. You got to get immersed. You got to get into it. I tell the story that when we moved to Baraboo, Wisconsin, which was now, holy mackerel, 50 years ago, we could go out a bedroom window onto the roof of our house, and we could look down at the fairgrounds. And on 4th of July, when they shot off the fireworks from the fairgrounds, we had a great view. 26 years later, when we left town, if we went out on that roof, it didn't work anymore because they didn't shoot them off there. It's the main reason. But the trees had grown up between us, and there was a lot of blockage for our vision. Now they shot them off at the high school athletic field. We couldn't see them at all from our side of the house, or our house, because we were on the other side of town. But that didn't separate us from hearing. It didn't separate us from knowing. It only separated us from direct vision. And you know, the real problem with being up on that roof, even when we first moved there, and seeing the fireworks, or sitting out in Smith's parking lot and watching the fireworks is you can't smell them. You got to be close enough to be able to smell the fireworks, to know that they are real. You can't sit back at a distance and see Jesus Christ. You have to make that journey to Emmaus. You have to walk that walk that he might walk with you. That's the only way that he can be in your heart. It's the only way that you can find that peace, that mercy, that joy that is his to give to you. Emmaus may or may not be a real place. It's mentioned in the Bible, so if we're going to be purists, it's there. If you want to argue with the historians and the geologists, it ain't there. But the walk, the journey, the trip is real. Walk with Jesus. Try to see him. Try to know him. And he will make himself visible to you. Maybe you already have. Maybe you know the peace of being absolutely sure of your relationship with Christ. What a wonderful gift he gives to us. And yet, many of us walk still in darkness, still not recognized, doing the things we ought to do, living the life we ought to live, but not finding the pure, absolute joy of unconditional love. Make the walk. But be ready to recognize when he reveals his love to you. Be ready, for the journey never ends. He walks with us always, always. Amen. With his eyes you have searched, and while smiling have spoken your name. Make the walk. Make the commitment. Find that love that builds you up, holds you close, lasts forever. Amen.